Welcome back to the Lead Lamp Podcast. This week, I'm very familiar with her, but I wanted to introduce Amanda Brown to you guys. Amanda has a very inspirational story to a lot of other people, and she's very energetic. We love working with Amanda, have a great working relationship with our whole team here. So, Amanda, welcome to our podcast.
Hi, thanks.
The general premise of this podcast is to just get to know, influential or just inspiring people in the community. And I can't think of someone better to have on than you.
Thank you. That makes me feel very good.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing me on.
Well, so let's give everyone a little bit of a background story on,
Sure.
Where you kind of started out. And then I know you do a lot. So you have a lot of different, you've worked with other organizations, you've done a lot of volunteer work. So kind of just give us a little bit of a background in how you got into all that.
Yeah, sure. I think it started with teaching. I'm not from this area. So
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up near Allentown in a town called Northampton, Pennsylvania. So I went to Bloomsburg University and got to know lots of people who lived in this area and told me about all the wonderful teaching opportunities. So of course I was excited about that.
Mm-hmm.
And I got my first job teaching second grade at Good Shepherd School in Camp Hill. And since I was new to the area, didn't really know anyone, a lot of the families wanted to bring me in and meet other people. And it was just a wonderful start. I was there for 2 years and, of course, was active in all the things that I could be active in.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I actually helped them with, which is a funny story, is a talent show to raise money for the new Good Shepherd building that is currently being used actually by the Vista School.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually had the nuns and some of the priests on the stage dancing to fun songs that we choreographed together.
That was probably a sight to see.
It was amazing. We raised a ton of money, and that amount of money helped the new school to become built fully.
Now, my wife's a teacher, so I had to ask this. Did you have to sub for a while before you got a teaching job, or you didn't go through that?
So when I graduated from Bloomsburg in May, I moved here right after that, and I did work in the summer school program. So I got to know some people that way, but I actually didn't do much subbing besides
you were lucky.
The summer school. Yep.
Because certain generations of teachers have to sub for what seems like ever until they get a job.
Right.
So
yes. I definitely landed on something that was, I think, made for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to know a lot of people at Good Shepherd. I taught there for 2 years. And then I actually moved into the Central Dauphin School District. And I taught there for 13 years in total, 4th grade and then 3rd grade. And again, I met so many people. And I was also a really big runner in the area. And so I ended up helping the school create a fundraising event that would support some families that were in need.
Was it through the PTO or?
It was through the PTO. Okay. Yep. And so I brought a lot of community members out to that race, and it started at the school and it went through the community of that school area.
And that kind of led into your other running venture you were involved in.
Yes. And so while I was teaching there in the Central Dauphin School District, I started having children, and they got involved in different sports, and they started to enjoy running too. So one of the things I started to volunteer with was the Healthy Kids Running Series program. So I was with that program for 3 years, and that was held in the Enola location. Mm-hmm. And that was an amazing community event. I mean, people from all over came to run with us, and it just brought so many different types of people out as well. There was a race that I started there called the Challenger, and that division was for kids of all different abilities and limitless. So you could be a part of it if you needed a gait trainer, if you needed a walker, if you needed a cane.
It was very inclusive.
If you needed a wheelchair, and we had such a wonderful turnout. And so, again, a lot of people from the community were involved because the races that we provided allowed all individuals to be a part of. Mm-hmm. So, I feel like the teaching and the running and being active in the community and bringing those two together has really allowed me to meet such wonderful people.
Now, what was that mean? Like, you loved running, but then what was that thing in your head where you were like, I need to get involved. I need to do Healthy Kids Running Series or whatever that.
So I feel like it was because of my kids, my older two. I have a 13-year-old.
They're a lot of energy. By the way.
Yes. My 13-year-old is Sam, and my 11-year-old is Max, and they might not say it, but they love running too.
And they're competitive.
They are very competitive, and they were winning. And so, when you win, it feels good. And you invite your friends and then they help you do better.
And you want to beat your friends.
Yeah. And they could make it work with their other busy sports schedules. So it just was great because my whole family could be a part of it.
Right.
And my daughter could be a part of the Challenger division because she's not currently walking yet on her own, but she can do so many things. And so to see her in action alongside so many people just like her, it was great.
Well, and you've told me this in the past, but she then became kind of like a beacon within that community and the people that showed up to that event, which is really cool. And that kind of, that's a whole different discussion. I think that could go into a whole different episode on its own. But
I just want to say that I think allowing or having that race division, the Challenger there for everyone to enjoy also allowed me to be more open and public with what Elise struggles with and what we all, as her loving family, struggle with. But getting her out there and just opening it up to everyone else just helped me.
Well, it's not just good for her, but it's good for other people. Yep. We've talked about that too, where when you start to, we've discussed this where, families that have kids that need special requirements or can't they feel like they can't participate in those things. When they see other people also participating in those things that are kind of like them, it encourages them to get out and do more too. So, and we've talked about that with some of the events we do where you're like, this is great because it draws more people in, not for a bad thing either. It's for like, let's include them all and get everyone involved.
Yeah. And it takes away like the uncomfortableness of it all when you know there's someone out there that's a little bit like you or that's trying something new, then you want to try it too.
Yeah.
So it's helped me in so many ways because
lowers a lot of barriers.
Yeah. Because of being a teacher, I've seen so many things, but I've also learned so many things. And it's just helped me, give my daughter and then other kids like my daughter just some more opportunities in the community. So a little bit of everything.
Too. We were talking about your kids, but your sons are also energetic, but Elise is a whole, she's a bundle of energy. She's a
girl, so she likes to push my buttons more than probably anyone else in this universe. Yeah.
They're good at that.
Yes.
I have two girls and they push my buttons constantly. But anyways.
Right.
So that you've done the Healthy Kids Running series and we've actually from our company kind of before you got involved with what we do here, where we're helping you out with the Healthy Kids Running series. It's a great organization for any kid that just wants to be active. Even if they're not a very active kid, it gets them in that doorway of like starting to create healthy pathway for them.
That's one of the missions of Healthy Kids Running series is however you can get to the finish line, get there. So
those organizations are awesome. Now my girls did Girls on the Run this year for the first time, and it's the same. Different group of people, but it's the same message. Like
I know all about that
other
too.
person running. Like this is your race.
That program is wonderful too. I was actually a coach for Girls on the Run when I worked in Central Dauphin School District, and then backed out a little bit because of the other demands that I had in my life. But I still am asked to be a buddy to run with the girls in the Girls on the Run
They're both
race.
Great programs.
So, very great programs for every kid to be a part of.
So you've done a lot with the community. On a volunteer basis, but now you're starting to do a lot, back in the education side or early education side, and you're doing some education kind of on a not as conventional way.
Right.
And we could talk about how you kind of got into that through that journey. Cause I think how you met Mike's a funny story too.
Yeah.
Our boss.
Yes.
But, kind of talk about that a little bit. We don't have to go into like trying to get everyone to come to Tooth Fairy Night, but you can just kind of talk about this odd journey you've had into becoming kind of this mascot for a dental company.
Mascot is a great way to describe what I do. I think I've known Mike for a really long time, and he's known my bubbly, energetic, go-getter, do all the things personality. So when he came to me and said, "Hey, I'm looking for a tooth fairy and you're the only person I think who could do it." And I'm like, "Oh, okay.
Thank you."
Well, I know. It was a nice compliment, so I thought about it and talked to my husband about it, and he's like, "Do it. Just do it." So I was like, "Okay." So jumped right in. And it's been wonderful because I can be with kids. I can be funny with them. They bring such joy to my life, and I can also teach them some things. So I'm teaching them.
A little bit different.
Yeah, very different than being in the classroom and all of those things, but learning more about dental health and teaching them about just how to keep their smile looking great is just so fun for me. And creating these events called Tooth Fairy Time has been even more fun because I get to partner with people in the community who I know or maybe don't know as well yet to bring some more fun into the offices.
Yep.
And I get to meet new people.
And you bring you've told me a bunch of times where there's circumstances where you'll notice that a kid or a family is like very high anxiety, or they have a lot of like, you can tell there's some apprehension or whatever going on at the dental office. And, just you interacting with them has brought that down. Right. And then they just like skip back to the operatory. Like it's like a completely different kid than from what they walked into the door.
It's really so amazing to see some new patients coming in and they see me and they're like, wow, the tooth fairy's here. It just takes away all the anxiety and fear that they might have otherwise had, coming into a brand new space.
Yeah.
So it's been so great. And I just, people ask me all the time, like, how are you doing this? And why do you love it so much? And I said, because it brings me joy. It's so joyful.
And you get to be very creative. Like,
yes,
you have those events where you're organizing a bunch of events with us, monthly Tooth Fairy Times, and you get to have fun when you have the Girl Scouts coming in. You've had the Taekwondo or the martial arts guy coming in, although you're older too, I think took advantage of that because you were holding the pad that day and they just went, like, all right, mom's holding this pad. We're going to go hard. Yeah,
they definitely gave me a little bit of their...
You might have had a bruise or two on your forearm.
Their frustrations a little bit. Yeah.
But you've had a very wide range of activities and I've seen you transform that from the first one that we did all the way to what we're doing now. And it's like mind-blowing how crazy those have gotten.
I think about, as a kid myself, if I wanted to return to these events month after month after month, what's going to keep me coming back? And so I know kids. I feel like I know how they think in some ways. I mean, obviously kids are so unpredictable, but you think about those things, and I just try to come up with some new ideas and just a different way of having fun. Sometimes we have the librarian come in and it's a more calm, relaxing environment. But then we have like the martial arts, or
the band.
We have the band come in, or we have My Gym Mechanicsburg come in, where it's more active. So I really try to, differentiate what the kids are going to be doing.
And now, we're not trying to push Tooth Fairy Time right now, but we'll kind of go back onto a different direction. What's that thing that there's a drive in you for that, to work with kids and to like make sure that they're learning and having a good time. But like, there's a spark in there. There's something, I see that with my wife too, because she's a fourth grade teacher, but like, what's that drive that you have where you're like, I just love seeing kids have a good time and learn at the same time? There's got to be something to kick that off.
People have asked me that before. It's a really hard question to answer because I feel like it's just my passion. It's like innate.
Were you always like an entertainer even when you were younger?
I mean, I have a brother and a sister. I'm the oldest of three. And, we lived in this really cool house where my sister and I shared a room in the attic, and we transformed it into a classroom. Well, I transformed it. She did what I asked her to do.
And you were like the leader of the...
Yeah, I was always the teacher. We literally would move our dressers and desks and beds to create a classroom, and then neighborhood friends would come over. I was always the teacher. My mom was always like, oh my word, this girl.
What is happening?
I know. But so I don't know. It's just always been who I am. And I've always worked with kids, even like summer breaks from college. I worked at summer camps. I did like sleepaway camps with kids. I don't know what it is. It's just a passion of mine that I just need to keep working on.
We need more. You need more of them too, because it's educators, not even in the teaching or the institutional route, but just people who are there to educate and help kids. I feel like there's always more need for it.
Yep. And advocates, and just someone that kids can talk to if they can't talk to their parents for some reason. You just need to be there for them in whatever way that is. And so
you never know what you'll change when you're dealing with a kid too, because like you might not realize it, but what you're doing for that kid in that moment, could change a path they're on too.
Right. So yeah, I know. And I remember my days in the Central Dauphin School District, and third grade was the grade I was in the longest. And I remember working with some kids where they just seemed so lost and didn't really know their place. And I really made a point to connect with them and help them know that this was their place and I will help them get to the next level.
Right. Now, you've had your hands in like everything in the community, a lot of different things. I know you've talked with me about this too, but when you're out and about too, you run into a lot of people who you've touched their family in some way, where they're like, you know, you were involved in some portion of their family's life. And when you're out and about, whether they saw you on the TV as a Tooth Fairy commercial or you were educating their kids, do you run into that a lot where you're just like, oh, there's Amanda? Like
a lot. And right now, you know, we're working with schools and I'm coming in as the Tooth Fairy and teaching dental health through assemblies, like an assembly structure. And it's funny because one of our last assemblies, I actually ran into like 2 or 3 people at the school who I met in other schools, and they were like, are you this person who did this? I'm like, I did that. And they're like, oh my goodness. So it really is interesting because wherever I go, and it's a good thing,
right?
You know, you feel loved. And like, obviously if I made an impact on this person, that's a good thing.
They're not remembering you for a bad thing. Like they're like, oh, there's that.
And it's just, you know, it's just a way to like bring people into the next thing that I'm thinking about or share something new that they might not have known. So, it's wonderful because I do see the same people over and over again, you know, in different areas. Yeah.
Last thing I wanted to talk about and ask you some questions on was you're also, on top of all these other things you've done, you're a published author too.
Yeah.
So, and I know we've talked about some things. We won't talk about future plans, but kind of go through the process that you went through when you decided I want to write a kid's book, children's book, and then like what the steps were. Because that's like, not a lot of people can say, you know, that you published a book and sold them.
Right.
Even just to get one out there and sold is a big accomplishment. So
it started at the school. You know,
while you were teaching.
While I was teaching. Yep. In 3rd grade, I remember sitting in an assembly where there were a husband and wife team, author, illustrator, and they came in to do an assembly for the kids on their process and how they became published illustrator and author team. And it was so inspiring to me that, you know, here they have this idea and they just went ahead
and
with
then
it.
You went right home and told your husband, you're going to write a book.
I'm like, I'm doing it right now.
You didn't drag him into it.
I mean, I had been thinking about it for some time because I love writing and I love reading. And my oldest was very young at the time. And he was so passionate about his little stuffy that he would always sleep with. And I thought, how can I create a story about this? And so I actually stayed after to talk with the husband and wife team. And I just asked them very general questions like, you know, is this something you think I can do? And they were so empowering and said, do it, Amanda, do it. And so I reached out to a couple people I knew that knew some publishers in the area, and the rest is history. I mean, I just continued
there were a couple of them
working on the journey. And it was a lot of my own effort and hard work behind the scenes, but I really wanted a book published. So I was going to do whatever it took to get that done.
So if someone has an idea for writing a book, like say I had a passion that I was tinkering with the idea, would you recommend going down that journey for someone?
Yes.
Like if you're on the edge of the, you know, jumping into writing a book, and I've not gone that route, but is it something that you think, whether or not the end result was 1 million copies sold or you sold 100, that process you went through and that journey to get it there was probably rewarding for you just in a learning
and
aspect.
To see my name like written on a book cover.
You got the author,
I mean, it's just so empowering, you know, and although right now I'm not writing books, I hope to start that again because it again reaches another group of people and can inspire people in a different way. So
I mean, everyone has a story everyone thinks their story is the same, but everyone has a unique story. And if you can work that into something creative that you can share with other people, like why not go for it?
Yeah. So,
it's pretty cool.
Thanks.
All right. So what's next we'll wrap this up with like, what's next for Amanda Brown? I know we have some plans. For anyone who doesn't know, she works with Lead Lamp and the Verber Dental Group for some Tooth Fairy stuff and some other events. But I know you have a lot of plans up your sleeve too. You're always a thinker. So.
Yes. So I hope to do more in the schools next year. Yes, as Tooth Fairy, but also maybe just as Amanda Brown and teaching kids in small groups more about dental health and even dental careers, you know, helping kids learn that there's more than just being a dentist. There's so many other things that you can do in this whole area of dental health. So hopefully I can do more education and just be around more kids.
So you're kind of evolving it from just, early dental education where kind of the brush your teeth basics into, there's other options for you if you're interested in dentistry for kids that are, that age where it's like middle schoolish, late elementary, where you're kind of sparking the idea of getting into a career of dentistry if that's what they're into.
Yeah, I would love to.
That's not even something that's talked about really in schools. It's like all these careers that are available. I think people just get shoehorned into like these basic degrees and then they don't know what to do with them. So that'll be pretty cool to see how you can evolve that message.
I'm hoping to do that and really even, teach kids about, I think, what's going on inside their mouth as far as the anatomy. That's also really
very
important
complex
too, because once they know that might spark something for a career later on also.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, if you haven't seen Amanda, she's around. We've had her own billboards. We've had her everywhere. So she's kind of like our local celebrity.
You said mascot?
Mascot. But celebrity's better. I like celebrity better. It does sound a little bit better than mascot. Because when I think of mascot, I think you're wearing like this giant,
I know.
like
my crown is big.
Like the sideline football mascot with the big head. But no, you've probably seen her around. If you haven't, you can always check her out on the Tooth Fairy Times at CVPD, CV Pediatric Dentistry, and probably an assembly coming to a school around you.
Yeah, local schools.
But you have such a cool story. So I wanted to thank you for coming on and talking with us for a few minutes and just sharing that. We might dig into a couple of little things later, but that'll be a different episode. So
sure.
All righty.
I'll do whatever you're asking.
Thanks, Amanda.
You're welcome.